Clinton administration, the commission, I had several meetings with the Attorney General, it was Janet Reno, about what to do about the large numbers of people who were leaving the prisons and were going back into society. And many of them were people whose poverty and lack of good education had put them in a position that they were in prison in the first place. And they hadn't gained any kind of skills in prison, and many of them were still illiterate, and more were coming out of prison. And the question was what to do about these people. The numbers have only increased since that time, so reentry is a huge question. There are people who are saying that to avoid the reentry question, what we should do is assume that they're on the street, and once they're let out of the prison, state prison, and they will in fact get into some trouble because they don't have anything else to do. And in about 2 weeks we can put them back and put them in the county jail instead of putting them in the prison. This is a policy matter that's being seriously discussed. But I think over the next year, right now we have some voices that are being heard more and more for the first time. In the LBGT movement, for example, the sounds are overwhelming and resounding out here, which have not been in the past. There are voices being heard now around the immigration issue, people who hadn't been heard from before. But I think it's correct to say that not only the health equity issues related to what kind of diseases people have, how do you have a healthy lifestyle, but with the new health care reform law coming into place too, and issues about access and what happens to people with that, then I think health is probably the next frontier for sort of civil rights issues. Jobs always, it's a recurring one, but it's true that our history shows that voices of people who are voiceless are heard when they engage in some activity that makes it impossible for people to ignore them. The minute the silence resumes, or the issue is somehow people either get tired or it appears that it's been taken care of or some palliative is applied, then we move on to some other issue. So I think that it is time for the health equity issue. The prison reform issue, there's been a lot written about it and a lot of discussion going on, and the numbers are horrendous, but it's not even taken into account in connection with school reform. That's upfronting. We're talking about school reform now, but we don't talk about the dropouts who are the ones who end up in prison and who are the ones later on who are re-entering from prison. And those connections have yet to be made. So I think that these are going to be important issues.